Monday morning and I was in the yard, but now I'm back out on the road again. I'm gonna collect one of our drivers who is taking a Volvo tipper in for some repair work. This is one of the lorries that's not on R&M. Now, we would have left the driver with it for a bit so the work could get done immediately. However, that is our pump driver who has a job to do this afternoon. Before leaving the yard, we had to give the lorry a good blast off, make sure we cleaned all the dirt and debris to ensure that nothing was tracked onto the public highway. And unfortunately, it was that time of the day when all the lads are back from getting their first loads and they're loading to go out for their second. So there was a little bit of congestion because we are still not using the wheel wash because there's too much sand and silt getting dragged into it and we're having to clean it out every day. Taking lorries to garages like this is a little bit of a walk down memory lane because the two Volvo tippers we have, AS11 ROK and ROC, are about 9 years old now. Now that's the sort of age of the lorries that we used to run years ago before we were forced into the Euro 6 ULEZ upgrade when we had plenty of new ones coming in. You may think, am I gonna upgrade these lorries? And at the moment, I am not looking to upgrade any of them. They may well be 9 years old. They might not be worth a lot of money, but these are lorries which we bought, we completely refurbished. Click here to watch that video. And we spent a lot of money on them, getting them up to a high standard. Of course, they are going to require more maintenance than lorries which are not of that age, but they are Euro 6 and they're still perfectly capable. And more importantly, they are not on finance. And it had me remembering all of our DAF and Volvo tippers from back in the day. And while I was going through a couple of the pictures, I found a picture of myself when I wasn't in debt. Anyway, heading down to the garage so I can collect Adam and bring him back to the yard. How long you been on the pump?
2017, 18. When I'm drive always volumetric or tipper, my body is no good. I must moving.
You don't like to sit down all day?
No. 1-2 days okay, but not all week. No.
Don't you find the pipes on the pump heavy?
No, it's fine. No.
You're always trying to maintain and fix things on the pump yourself. Where did you learn to do these basic mechanics?
In practice, in the job.
When you look around the pump, like what are you checking for?
When I'm finished the job, I'm backyard, everything I'm spray diesel, the pipe, clean the pipe. When it's the grease point, I'm put the grease. Okay. And it's ready for next, not before job, no, after job. When it's clean and the pipe is clean, the job is easy. Clip, no hammer, no pressure, but it's no many job, yeah? I'm waiting for come.
Yeah, we're all waiting. Well, thank you for taking care of the pump. Adam has now got to the concrete job and needs to set up the line to reach the rear of the property. The concrete will be poured into the hopper and then pumped through the pipes. There is a delivery pipe attached to the hopper, which we use rubber gaskets and clips to connect to. A bit of grease is used for lubrication, and the first pipe connected is a steel 90-degree elbow. Then it's a steel straight pipe with a T connection. This will come in handy later when priming the pipe before the concrete is poured. We use a bit of timber to support the weight and take the pressure off the pipe, and the first full-size straight line pipe will be rubber. Each full-size straight pipe is 3 meters long and 4 inches in diameter. The lorry holds a mixture of both steel and rubber pipe. We use steel, which is rigid, where we do not need to maneuver, and rubber for turns or where we may need to adjust slightly. We put down membrane to protect the driveway from any spillages, spray mold oil to prevent concrete sticking to the hopper, and we're ready for concrete. We're trying to gear up to load a couple of trains with muck in the yard, but it's a completely different skill set from offloading the train. Whenever you see type 1 sand or gravel come into the yard, each wagon has roughly 75 tons of material. However, when you're loading muck onto the train, each wagon should have about 60 ton. Now, for speed, we were going to load each of the wagons with the shovel and kind of just try to pat the top a little bit with the L860 so we could have the two shovels going flat out and the L860 just making it nice and neat. But the train operators, they don't want us to, not that we would, they don't want anyone beating muck into the body of the wagons because they're saying at the other end, they're never going to be able to get it out. At the same time, they're very worried about overloading the train. Now, we do not have a track weighing system at the moment. You remember in Weekly a long time ago, I showed you the area up the top, which isn't concreted, where we're going to put the track weighing system. Now, we don't have the resource to do that at the moment. So we were going to use the weights from the shovels and the L860. So bucket in the air, recalibrate, load a wagon, note down the weight, and then move on to the next one. If you watch our video, Journey of a Rock, this is what you can see Aggregate Industries doing at the Isle of Grain. They use the weights from the shovels, but with muck, everyone is very worried, especially as it's our first time and they don't want to take any risks. So the train may well need to leave here, divert to somewhere close, go over a weighing system, and then after that, go to its destination. The first time anyway, just so we can build up some experience and trust with the freight operator. So I am thinking of Flo on Saturday morning. Flo is going to go down to a site in Wembley where they load about 5 trains a week of muck, and he's just going to sit there, look around, discuss with the operator, possibly have a go himself, because we all know that Flo is fantastic on the L860 and the shovel. But you know, experience is the master. He just needs to see the tricks and learn the techers with putting sticky clay and muck into train wagons. And now we are going to go to one of Manny from Elite Pave's jobs. However, Luke, our cameraman, is off this week, so we don't actually have anyone we can spare to go there. Hence the reason earlier in the day we had the body cam from Adam, the pump operator. So Manny is going to be filming all of this footage on his phone. So I said to Manny, you need to help us document this. You'll now see how good Manny's footage was so he can showcase his work. This project is a driveway refurbishment at a lovely residential home. The previous driveway has already been broken out and the material placed in 2 stockpiles to make it easier for us to remove. We take the first load to create working space and so a geotextile membrane can be laid. The next load is importation of type 1 and a back load removing the remaining breakout material, which will be taken to a recycling facility. We have another 3 loads of type 1 in today, but unfortunately no more back loads. So the grabs are going to go and try and head to another local site. is compacted, but the project is on hold until the new front gates arrive and are installed. At that point, the work can continue and the driveway can be laid. Meanwhile, back at the Ashville yard.
Tomorrow we'll go for 1 week.
Simon, did you know about this? Flo's not here next week.
I'm off this week.
You're off this week, great, here we go. Everyone's off. I was about to ask you to go down to another site to watch them load a train of muck. Terry, do you know about this? Flo going on holiday? Huh? He's always on holiday, yeah, so that's a... More holidays than me? Nah, Terry's obviously joking. That's obvious nonsense. Thanks, Flo. Meanwhile, back at the central London penthouse project. We're starting to build up the floor levels in the hallway, bedroom and living room. We showed you the build up a couple of weeks back, which is designed to limit the sound transfer to the floors below and create a flush finish with the lift. Using a tape measure would slow us down massively, so we've set up a laser and cut and marked small sections of timber which can be used to continually ensure the 2x2 is at the right level. In areas where we're too low, we use packers to build up. Next is 18mm tongue and groove chipboard, which is glued, slotted into each other, and then screwed into the 2x2 using 2-inch screws. For a while now, I have been procrastinating about this lorry because we have had other work to do. However, now's the time that we need to fix it. We're kind of there or thereabouts already. We've disconnected most of the engine. The gearbox has been taken off it. We need to lift it out. But I actually made the call earlier and the engine, which I showed you in the past, has actually been sold to someone else. Obviously, I didn't expect them to just hold it for me indefinitely. So now we don't want to pull the engine out because what we need to do is put the old and the new engine side by side and switch over a lot of the connections and then lift the new one in. But then the old one has got to go back. And then once it's in, we have to put the gearbox back on and reconnect it, and then the dashboard's gonna light up like a Christmas tree, then we're gonna need to get people to plug in. There could be some ECU problems. But I'm not gonna do any of that, because now no one has an engine. So I'm calling out. I'm sending an SOS. Does anybody know of a Volvo 2017 11-litre 450? It doesn't have to be a 2017, it could be a 2018. And I'd prefer it to have no more than 150 Ks on it, which I know is completely narrowing my market. But, you know, reach for the stars and hopefully I'll get the moon. Lads are doing a bit of work again outside the car parks just to try and put down some better material. The weather just seems to get worse and worse and worse. It's not letting up, even though we are in February and hopefully soon heading into spring. All morning, I've been on a CPC refresher course for my transport manager qualification. It's been a number of years. And, you know, I didn't think I'd learn much on the course. I have definitely picked up a couple of bits of new information. Today was day one. I'm now going to do my coursework. Can you believe it? I've had homework to do. But before that, I'm just having a look at some pictures from the Volvo that we dropped off yesterday. We did need a new headlight, but there was also an electrical problem. You can see that it was completely caked in mud and some of the cables had come out and they had been damaged. That was repaired. But whenever you have a lorry ready to go back out on the road, you always check it thoroughly. And this is what was revealed. There is a cracked spring. So that work is now happening. We're going to change the spring, then take the lorry for a road test, and hopefully the lorry will be roadworthy and we'll go down to collect. And now I have to do my coursework. At the Penthouse project, it's another delivery of large tiles which we need to carry up 6 flights of stairs with our extendable multi-suction cup heavy-duty tile transporter. Last week you saw us lay tiles on the floor in the bathroom. Now the floor is complete and protected, we make a start on the walls. It's Wednesday morning and I'm in the yard, and this is not the start to the day that I wanted. The clutch has gone on one of our grabs. It needs to be recovered and taken back to Scania in Heathrow. No idea how long this truck is going to be off the road. It's not costing us anything because it's on full R&M and Scania are covering the cost of the recovery and the repair, but it's costing us because the lorry is not going to be out on the road generating any revenue. It's looking like it's picking up out there a bit. Some of the projects we were waiting to start have started, but what I'm doing is an analysis of how much money we're actually making on the jobs and if in fact it is worth it. A couple of weeks back we were doing a job where we were going in and out of a tip and we were getting about 3 or 4 punctures a day and having to scrap loads of tires. By the time we added up the money for the tires and how much we're getting paid for the job and all of the downtime, meaning we're doing less loads, it wasn't actually paying. But I now need to reassess if the work we're doing, which the rates have dropped a little bit on, if that work is in fact paying. At the same time, I heard from a manufacturer who's going to run a loading shovel into us on demo. It's one from their new range. Our 586 is down at the moment. We need a plug-in. It seems to have an AdBlue problem, but the 566 is flying and working well. But I believe it is time for an upgrade. I parked it for a little while because we're so busy working on other bits, but I think I'm going to pick that up again. And now we're going to head into central London and see how we're getting on. The majority of the walls we need to skim are newly boarded and can be prepared for plastering by taping the joints and applying PVA to increase the bonding capabilities. We do have a few walls which are not new and were previously painted. Plastering directly onto painted walls which are not prepared can cause issues like flaking or peeling. To increase the bonding capability, we apply a coating of blue grit. The entire room is prepared and then the plastering can begin. The time is 6:18 p.m. We've just had a video go live. Click here to watch that video. It's the truth about what actually happened in the yard when we had the test locomotive. It's not something that we showed in weekly, but we've since got the footage together and we've shared the challenging second by second emotions with you. That was most definitely a long day. And I've had another long day today. When making key decisions, you always try to weigh up every option. And then sometimes neither decision is good. So you need to choose the lesser of the two evils. However, when you're making these decisions, you need to make sure that these decisions are not based on you cowering away from responsibilities or consequences. You need to make the right decision based on all the information. And the right decision may land you in more problems and more complications, but long term, it is the better decision to make. But if you have all the information and you decide to go down a path of less resistance, which will get you in more problems later, you're kind of just kicking the can down the road. Now, sometimes you have to kick the can down the road because circumstances and time constraints. But if you're in a position where all the information is there and you have the less of two evils and you can measure the impact, but the one with less impact has more confrontation, which you don't want to have, or more difficult conversations, you need to still make that decision and not cower away from the responsibilities or think that you're going to hide under some coats or cushions and hope everything works itself out, because it won't. And that's it for Wednesday. It's Thursday and I'm in the yard, sat at the boardroom table. I spent most of last night trying to get a deal over the line, which many times in the last few months looked like it was about to happen. We kept pushing, we kept answering questions, we did everything that was required of us, what I thought we did, and obstacles kept getting thrown in the way. Did everything I could, but unfortunately, at the last minute, the deal fell over, which didn't have me in the right frame of mind. So I had to kind of compose myself, because I had my second day of the CPC refresher course, which I had on Tuesday. I managed to get into it, and once again, I felt like I learned a lot and be refreshed on my obligations and responsibilities as a director or transport manager. But I tried to film a little bit of it as like a cutaway when I'm talking now, and like a donut, I only knocked the water over onto my desk.
It's just a security feature, guys. Things to look out for. Now, we've assessed I've got a license.
And then I put my arm in it, and my jumper's still wet, and it's just, if I'd have just mind my own business and done my course, none of that would have ever happened, but you know. Some would argue that I deserve it. At the penthouse project, we have the renders for the kitchen, and my friend Jonathan at Lux Casa sent through the drawings. The client changed the sink which they wanted to use, so we had to redraw it, but we're now forwarded this layout to the client, and the client will decide if in fact they're happy with the sink going there or not. If they're not happy with it, we'll shift it again, and if they are happy, we can continue with the fabrication of the kitchen, because we will be in a position to install it very soon, because as you can see at the Central London penthouse, we are flying. So many difficult decisions I've made lately, and I made another one yesterday. Now, I'm not going to say it in weekly because I feel it won't do it justice, and it will probably answer a lot of questions. I'm not going to duck, dive, hide. I'm just going to lay it all out. This is what happened. People can do with it as they wish. And people have been good enough to follow us on our journey so far. Hopefully they'll follow us in the next step of our journey, but things will change. This will be a standalone video, which will be out on Wednesday. I just feel being in weekly, it won't do it justice, and some people may miss it. And that's it for Thursday. in the yard. And there's no point sitting around crying and feeling sorry for yourself. It's time to lift the chin up and try and make a plan for the future and work out the best way forward. Now, we have muck, which is going to come into the yard, which needs to be loaded onto the train when we put the scraper bars back in the clamshell bucket of the LH60. Now, this is not planned for next week, it's planned for the week after. But we had an inspection, and because we haven't had many trains lately, we, to be honest, haven't been checking the rail line. And there's been a big build-up of muck, which has happened because lorries have been driving up and down and the shovel has been here and it splashed it. So the lads are now working from the top to the bottom to clean the railway track of any obstructions. Once we've done this, the area here, we're going to get the machine and we're going to scrape it right down so there is a clear path and a clear walkway. Now, as we're not going to have the same amount of traffic in this area that we previously had, it will be a lot easier to manage. So let's get on with it. While the lads work on that, we are beginning to wash off all of the lorries and prepare them for a fashion parade. And the sticker man's called it. It's Saturday, and we're in the yard, and we're continuing washing the lorries and having the lorries lined up for a beauty parade. A number of people have come in today to look at the lorries. It's very hard to pick faults. They are used lorries, so they of course are not going to be perfect, but most of them have had manufacturer full R&M, and we've taken care of them. We didn't always clean them, but we have taken care of them mechanically and they're ready to go to work. And some of the gentlemen who were talking to Terry, they were telling us the money they're getting where they are, that they get £250 for a load in Wales and they tip for like between 50 and 80 quid. We have to do a load of muck on a big muck shift in a tipper, not on a grab where we have to take like 100 a day out. And if we're getting 250 for the load, we have to pay 160, 170 to tip it. Plus, the rate they told us the drivers are getting paid down there is a couple of quid an hour less than here. It's just because it's London and London is more expensive. And the money they're getting for day work is the money that we're struggling to get for day work. And their expenses are considerably less and they're complaining. So it's quite clear that running the lorries in central London is more expensive than it is in other parts of the country. Now, one could argue that there are more opportunities in London and there are more jobs to do, but one could argue there's a larger concentration of construction firms like ours in London, and especially in West, and I'll say as well, East London. Food for thought to see how others are getting on in other parts of the country. I would generally say let's grease the cranes and check all the wheel nuts, but I don't think that we'll be greasing cranes today. We'll continue washing and assess at the end of the day, but what we will do is some of the lads will continue our work on the train track, getting that ready, so hopefully on Monday we can make a start looking at the gates, because the freight company that came out said that we also damage the gates where the train comes into the yard. Now, I've never touched those gates, so I'm quite interested as to how both those sets of gates would have been damaged. But I guess we will find that out on Monday when we take a closer look, because my townie will be back in. has ended a completely different way in which it started. And the course of the business and my life has changed, and it's been up and down throughout the week. But the overall direction has pivoted and gone another way. I'm a firm believer when you have an energy and you have passion, that when you change the target, you can still achieve. Now, with what's happened this week, it seems kind of not real to me yet, because I feel half spaced out and I haven't processed it because I haven't slept for ages. I thought I would sleep last night, but I still couldn't. And I'm just trying to manage it and get my head into a place where I can actually just, at least for an hour, not think about it. Do I feel a little bit of relief? In a strange way, yes. And do I feel excited about the future? More so. Because while all the negativity was happening, there are opportunities which I was working on and pushing forward, and a few of them are very close. Now, what happened earlier in the week showed that almost doesn't count and almost isn't good enough. But perhaps while I was going through it, I'd been going through it so long, perhaps I wasn't in the best head state, and I was trying to fix and trying to salvage, as opposed to a different energy, which is excitement and passion to build and grow something. Is it the end of one road? One way of looking at it. Is it the start of a lot more? I prefer to believe that. And you know what? I genuinely believe that. As I said earlier in the week, there'll be a standalone midweek video to explain more. When making key decisions, so he wants to be looking at the toilet. Start again. I want this in one take. And don't try to put this in the outtakes either. So it's quite quick. So it's it was a long light. And that's it for Ashville Weekly, episode 228. Click here for the Ashville website. Click here to subscribe to our channel. Click down here for an Ashville video you may not have seen before. And click down here for last week's episode, which was number 227.